Thank you. Everyone hear me? Good. I'm so honored to be here with all you healthcare professionals, and I'm looking forward to a great session today. So here to talk about the fitness curveball. I'll get into what that is in a minute. I'm going to have to be coming up here to switch slides because we had a little technical issue. All of us have different backgrounds, different experience levels, and we're even in different industry segments, but we all come with a pretty similar purpose. Who got into your industry to help people? Yeah? Who didn't? Who just got in it for the money? Oh yeah, right, we're in healthcare, right, yes. Forgot about that. So my mission and my passion, I wholeheartedly believe that being healthy, happy, and fit is absolutely amazing. My mission in life is to help people experience what that's like. Hands up if you are there or have been there and you know what it's like. Okay? I'd hazard a guess to say that a lot of the people that we see on a day-to-day basis aren't experiencing that. In fact, we just have to look at the stats across North America and the world to see that that's not the case. We talk about a bunch of things here today, but it really comes down to this. Everything we're talking about comes back to this. Are you living a healthier, happier, more vibrant life? And if so, great. This is another part of my why. I started in the health club industry about 25 years ago, and the more time I spent in that industry, I realized it's broken. It doesn't work. More people go to the gym, but more people are getting unhealthy and out of shape. And what I want to do is do something about it. That's me way in the back there. No, I'm just joking. I put this slide up because it gets a good laugh, but it's also, that's about when I started in the industry. And a lot has changed. I like to say I try not to take it too personally, that I've spent 25 years trying to help people be healthier and happier, and obesity rates have tripled, and people are less healthy. I'm trying not to take it personally, but I'm doing my best, and that's why I speak to healthcare professionals, because I want everyone that is in this field to help as many people as they can, because, going back to it, being healthy, happy, and fit is awesome. So as I said, I spent so many years in the industry, and at the beginning, I came from an athlete background. I was an athlete myself. When I went through university, I was taking kinesiology, psychology. I started working as a strength conditioning coach for National Baseball Institute, worked with a lot of elite athletes in Vancouver, and then because that didn't pay the bills very well, I got a job in a health club and started personal training, as so many kinesiologists do. I was giving these clients the best workouts I could. I was doing all the things that had worked so well with the athletes, and I was adapting it to the needs of the populations I was seeing, but I noticed that some people were getting great results, and other people, they were getting a little more fit, but they weren't reaching their goals. They weren't losing weight. They weren't necessarily feeling better that much. And being a little bit of a competitive person, I was getting frustrated. I was like, oh, what's going on? So I started thinking about it, and I realized that what I was doing and the health and fitness I was trying to impart to people wasn't about the gym. I was trying to get people fit when they didn't really need fitness. Sure, they needed a little bit, but I'll talk more about what that is. I realized that it's about the other 165 hours. So I created a rule called the 165-hour rule, where the average client that I saw me about 3 hours a week. And when we look at it over the board, the average person who exercises about 3 hours a week. It might be 6 30-minute sessions, it might be 3 one-hour sessions, or some variation of that. But in reality, it's not about the gym. The time we spend exercising is great, but if we don't transform the other 165 hours in our life, we won't be happy, healthy, and fit. That, to me, looking back now, I'm like, well, duh, of course. That makes sense. At the time, it was like, mind blown. I had this big revelation that I'm like, wow, oh, that was the moment where I went from being a trainer, a personal trainer, to a coach. I took it upon myself, and it became my ultimate goal was to use the 3 hours that I had with someone to transform the other 165 hours. That completely revolutionized how I approached the coaching process, what I talked to people about, and the impact it made on their life. So I came up with an approach that I call the 4 pillars of personal performance: mindset, habits, movement, and fuel. Every one of these things is important to each person in this room and to each of the people we see. It's what allows us to function properly. The reason I called my book The Fitness Curveball is because as a personal trainer, people come to personal trainers to get fit and lose weight. They want to learn about fitness and nutrition. And I'm like, that's great, that's important, but there's a reason they're pillars number 3 and 4, because they're not the most important things. What I realized that, and we've all seen this with New Year's resolutions, how many people have set a New Year's resolution? Now keep your hands up if you've actually accomplished that resolution. Okay? How many people have had the same resolution for like 5 years, and by Valentine's Day they cross it off, and then next January they're like, okay, I'm really getting it this year. And then the next year, I'm really, really getting it this year. What happens is that when people set a New Year's resolution, or most goals for that matter, they start, I gotta get in shape and lose weight. They start exercising. They're like, I'm gonna go on a diet. I'm gonna eat really clean. They just empty out their cupboards. They're doing the actions, but they haven't shifted their mindset yet. Their mind isn't, they're not the person who does those things naturally. They might not have the whole purpose and values that they need to move on. So there's a whole process we take people through in our coaching programs to go through each of these steps and each of these pillars. And each pillar is important. They all need to be there. But unless you progress through them set your mindset in the right position first and then move on, you'll continue to struggle. And that's where people say, I exercise and eat well, I just can't get the results that I want. And we look back, and 99.9% of the time, it's a mindset or a habits issue. The interesting thing is when I started coaching people in this process, clients were coming back to me, and they're like, wow, my relationship with my wife is better, I've got more energy, or my husband, I've got more energy, I'm sleeping better, I'm way more productive at work, I'm bounding out of bed with energy, I've never been like this before. I got a promotion at work. All areas of their life were starting to improve because their personal trainer wasn't trying to get them in shape. We were focusing on the things that actually needed to happen. And the interesting thing is, once we got the mindset and habits in place, all kinds of other things started happening. Lo and behold, they were getting more fit. And lo and behold, they started to eat better because they wanted to. They saw the results, but it took that transition to get them into the right spot. So what does this have to do with you as a healthcare professional? In some ways, nothing. In some ways, everything. Some of you are probably already doing this, and you're like, what we're going to go over today is like, yeah, I'm already doing that. Good reminder. Awesome. If you're in that position, fantastic. We generally know that's not the case. All of the stuff we're going to talk about today, I started doing because first of all, I saw it in my clients, and then when I started seeing the transformation of my clients, I realized, wait a minute, this might work for me too. And I started actually doing it. And it wasn't until that point where my business started taking off, my own fitness started improving. I was dealing with a lot of nagging physical and behavioral issues around my own life, and my wife will attest that some of the habits things have really helped for me as well. But what I really noticed was this works, and it's not just about health and fitness, it's about work, life, relationships, just overall happiness. These things all have to be in place. So as healthcare providers, we are here, we see, and depending on the industry we're in, we might see people that come into a clinic or a pharmacy or a nutrition coaching business or some type of other healthcare field, but people are usually coming to see us because they have an issue, they have a symptom that they want to improve on. Our goal is to help them, but if we can see a bit of a bigger picture and understand some of the other pieces that might be at play, we'll be better able to help those people. And that's something that it took me many years to figure out, and I'm so excited about the fact that it's helped, that I want people to expand that to everyone that they see. So reality check, and there's a couple reality checks. The first reality check is that while we know this stuff, a lot of us aren't doing it. Plain and simple. If we look at some of the things we're going to talk about, yeah, I know that. And I always say to clients, yeah, but are you doing it? Actions speak a lot louder than words, and I say to clients all the time, what we do is not rocket science. It is very straightforward, but you have to do the steps. Simple is not always easy, and that's an important distinction to make. And it's actually not that difficult either. It just takes small little steps. A lot of people, and this is where the New Year's resolutions come back to again, is people think it's like, I've set this massive goal and I've got to try and accomplish it. And well, that's nice to have this vision. All the little steps in between are really important as well. So what are the little things we're doing on a day-to-day basis to help us be healthy, happy, and fit? And that's something we're going to dive into. So we're going to go briefly through each of the 4 pillars. We're not going to have a ton of time to dive into it. I'll highlight some of the key factors, but I'd love to answer some questions at the end and even throw up some hands in between, and we'll dive down a few rabbit holes. I like to keep things fairly flexible as we go. But because we are health and wellness, you can stay in your chair if you want, but I encourage you to stand up for this one. We're just going to do a little mobility thing because it is after lunch. It's that mid-afternoon nap time when people probably want to have their head on the table. So we're going to get you moving a little bit. All right, very quick and easy. So I want you to stand up with good posture. And who's seen So You Think You Can Dance? Who likes that show? I love that show. You ever see the hip hoppers when they do the chest pop? Okay, so we're going to do a little chest elevation like this. Lift up, breathe in, open your hands right back like this. Good. Come back down. Turn your head to the side. Turn your head to the other side. Back and forth a couple times. Look to the straight ahead. Bring your ear to your shoulder, or as close to it as you can. See if you notice a difference from one side to the other. Drop your chin down. Come right up. Now we're going to do the chicken. Okay, and then the side-to-side chicken. If you can do that one. Nice. Okay, shake the arms out. Grab a seat. So how many people feel improved blood flow right now? Okay. Was that difficult? Okay, no, it wasn't. It was easy. You are clinically proven to be smarter right now because you've improved the blood flow to your brain. If we can do that, they've done tests where people actually get smarter. So I've just improved your IQ. That's good. All right. So this is something that in our corporate clients, we encourage people to do. Every half hour, every hour, just move. Get your body moving. Between every email you send, do a little stretch or something like that. Every phone call you take, stand up and move. Little things like that make such a difference. And that's when I talk about those. There's that whole book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. I'm like, sweat the small stuff. That's the thing. That's the stuff that matters. All those things add up to really big things. All right, pillar number 1 is mindset. I like to call mindset the filter through which you see the world. Who's seen those Claritin commercials? Yeah, it's not clear, it's Claritin clear. It's like, I should be the spokesperson. People have this filter. They're getting results in life. Some are positive, some are maybe not so positive, and some are just in the middle. If we want to change our results, we have to start with the mindset because it's like throwing a different color filter on there. And some people have said, you just see life through rose-colored glasses. And I'm like, well, that rose-colored means you don't see the negative. I'm like, it's rose-tinted. you still see the negative, you still see the things you need to work on, but you're looking at them from a positive perspective and you're taking a positive spin on it. That's really what mindset is all about. But in order to do that, you have to take a step back and realize that there's some challenges with that filter you have in front of you. Who's worn a really good pair of like polarized sunglasses? You go out to like a tropical reef or something and you're wearing your regular sunglasses and then you can't see that much and you put the polarized ones on, you're like, whoa, all of a sudden the reef just pops out. That's like shifting your mindset. Now you can see things, they were always there, but you couldn't notice them before. Great example is I just bought a new car. I was looking around and all of a sudden you start seeing that car all over the street. They were there before. We're looking and I'm like, oh, there's one. And I play punch buggy with my kids. You ever play that game? Yeah. So there are a lot of yellow cars and bugs around. We do yellow cars as well, but a lot of yellow cars and bugs around Calgary, especially school bus time. It's the kids like to hit each other. But the idea is that those cars pass you by all the time until you start playing the game and tune your mind into it. You don't realize how many are there, and you see these opportunities all over the place. And that's the same in business, in life, in fitness, in health. You have these opportunities to improve your health, your fitness, your mindset every single day. But if we're not taking advantage of them, that's really important. We'll talk about a little story in a second. So I created a little model called the circle of success or distress. It starts with thoughts. Thoughts are the only things in your life you truly control. My second personality says that too, but I'm having trouble with that. So the thoughts are what you have in your mind. Those turn into perceptions. They're the perceptions of that filter through which you're seeing the world. And then you go around the circle to your actions. What your scenario, your perception is going to determine the action you take in a certain situation. And then you come farther along to outcomes. That's the results you get in life. What results you get in life are going to feed back on the thoughts you have. Is it self-perpetuating? Or do you get thrown into a new situation and say, oh, well, hey, I have to rethink this now. As that you go through that cycle a whole bunch of times, those thoughts become beliefs. They're really strong, deep-seated, much harder to change. You still can change them for sure. And then not just a perception, but you have an attitude about something. You always approach a certain situation with a certain attitude. It might be positive, might be negative, or constructive. Actions. Actions become habits, those things you do every day that you don't even think about. Who rolls over in the morning and turns on their phone and checks the messages? Smack yourself. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that later. Outcomes. Do you get positive or negative results? If you're getting the great outcomes in life, you're going to start to cycle up that circle of success. But if you're getting negative outcomes in life and it's feeding back on itself, you're going to be in a circle of distress. So people are either spiraling up or spiraling down. And when we understand this model, we can actually impact at every point of the circle. We can change our thoughts. We can start to look at what attitudes we're putting out and perceptions we have of the world around us, the actions we're taking. It doesn't really matter where you start, but it has to come back to being able to change those thoughts, because if your thoughts aren't changing, it's going to be way harder to change the rest of those. I had a conversation with my daughter. I've got an 8 and a 10-year-old, and she's 10 and going on 15, and we're just getting into that age where there's a lot of attitude coming out, and so we start talking about being response-able. We like to say, it's okay to have emotions. Emotions are normal. You can get fired up inside, but what we have the control over is our actions out of those emotions. What do we do with that? And we see this happen in health and fitness and wellness every day. People get this thought in their mind, and it might be a great thought. I want to exercise and eat well, but then they take actions that aren't conducive to that, which limits their outcomes, which feeds back on The self-perpetuating, well, last time I tried that, it didn't, the whole New Year's resolution thing, last time I tried that, it didn't work. And so you're already going into it defeated. Whereas when we can understand that we're able to create our own responses, we're able to harness that power across that entire circle. Anyone familiar with Carol Dweck, Stanford researcher? She wrote a book called Mindset. Fantastic book if you want to get that. This is sort of a summary of what her results were from the book. But basically, she talks about two different types of mindsets: fixed mindset or growth mindset. The fixed mindset, some talent is innate. Your IQ is pretty much set. You're good at certain things, and it's no real use trying outside of that because, you might be able to learn a little bit, but not much. When a fixed mindset person gets feedback, they get defensive because it's a slight on their intelligence, their skill set. When there's setbacks, they get discouraged, blame others. Whereas in the growth mindset, it's the exact opposite. They know that there's always something new to learn, that every failure is an opportunity to grow. They love feedback because it's useful. I can learn something. I can incorporate it and build new skills. Transition and change management is much easier for someone with a growth mindset. The interesting thing, which Carol Dweck found, was that regardless of age, she's worked with kindergarten and preschool students all the way up to retiring executives in Fortune 500 companies. And we might hold a growth mindset or a fixed mindset in different areas of life. Like you might have a growth mindset at work, but a fixed mindset in relationships, for example. But she's shown that with small strategic pieces of coaching and growth, you can change from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset in any area. And the results are fascinating when you, especially, she's done a lot of research on the education side with students, particularly in troubled low-income schools and things like that. It's a fascinating book if you get the chance to read it. But the interesting thing is when we look at some of the challenges people face in health and wellness, it's very easy to identify when people are in a fixed or a growth mindset. And you go back to what I talked about with a little story on mindset and luck. There's another researcher who, I think he's from Stanford or Harvard, Daniel Wiseman. And he did a study where he brought a bunch of students in. I think there were 50 participants. He split them into two groups, and after he'd given them a personality inventory, showing whether they were optimistic or pessimistic people, put them in these two groups, gave them the exact same newspaper with a task and said, your goal is to count the number of pictures in this newspaper. At the end, come give it to the researcher and we'll give you $20. They're like, right, okay. Same newspaper. So they're reading through. On page 2, there is he experimented in different versions of it, whether it's a half-page ad or a small ad or whatever, and he found the size of the ad didn't make a difference. An ad that said, hey, you can stop reading now, mention this to the researcher, and get an extra $50 or whatever it was. Something like 78% of the optimistic people saw the ad. Only like 24, 25% of the pessimistically grouped people saw the ad. So he wrote a book called The Luck Factor, and he says that luck isn't innate. It's you make your own luck by that filter through which you see the world. Everyone had the opportunity to see that picture, but based on their mindset, they would skip right by it. So Daniel Goleman said there are 4 things that create luck. Create and notice chance opportunities. Notice how he said create. You can create chance opportunities. I used to be petrified, funny enough that I do this for a living, stand up in front of people, but I used to be petrified to speak to people. I'd go into a cocktail party and I would just stand there. And as a business owner trying to grow my business, it was very important to go out and network, but I would always struggle to go up and talk to people. And the interesting thing is when I finally just went, and went up and just and said something to someone, I often got into great conversations, and I met so many amazing contacts that have turned into business and friendships all across the world that I never would have had if I hadn't created that opportunity by actually just walking up and taking an action. And despite what those thoughts were saying, I'm changing the thoughts, and then I took a different action based on it. So listening to their intuition, who's had that gut feeling? It's like, oh, I should do this or I shouldn't do this. Listen to that. That's important. No one knows why it's there. It's this innate, deep-seated, like evolutionary thing that your body just like knows what's right. And unless your intuition's telling you to go jump off a bridge or something, maybe not. Don't do that. But lucky people create self-fulfilling prophecies via positive expectations. That's that filter through which we're seeing the world, the mindset. Resilient attitude that transforms bad luck into good. Again, growth mindset. Something bad happens, and they say, oh, okay, this happened to me. How can I improve? How can I improve the situation? What can I learn from it? How can I grow? That's where luck comes from. Great quote by Jim Rohn, one of my favorite sort of business guru philosophers. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. It's like it's not the end goal, it's the journey and who you become along that journey. All kinds of great quotes on that. All right, everyone stand up again. Whew, been sitting for too long already. So I put this picture in because as a former baseball player, I was left-handed, but I have some pictures of this, and it's no wonder I have elbow and shoulder issues. And yeah, that's not me, but yeah, it's amazing the torque that can happen through there. So we're going to do a little shoulder mobility work. All right, right here, stand hands by your side, reach all the way up overhead, bring it back down, up in front. Try not to smack the person next to you. Bring your hands forward, touch the back of your hands together, tuck your chin, and then reach back and see if you can touch your hands behind your back. If you can, very impressive. Forward again, and back again. Shrug the shoulders, bring them forward and back, bring them up and down, bring one up, one down, one side, front, back. Okay, good. Grab a seat. All right, what was that, 30 seconds? Feel some more blood flow. You're waking up again. I saw a couple people in the back table falling asleep, so I've got my eye on you. All right, habits. So we've talked a lot about habits. Habits are the filter through which you see the world. Habits are the foundation to put that mindset in place. This is where my wife drilled it into me over the years. We've been together 15 years now and married for 13. And yeah, I'm very much big picture, blue sky, chasing butterflies, and she's like, get some stuff done. And so habits have been my biggest transformational pillar. I had the other three fairly dialed in, but wondered why I was spinning my wheels all the time. And habits are where the rubber hits the road. It's like, boom, now you've got a plan to actually do things. In the mindset side, you've set, we take people through a whole goal setting and vision and what are your values, what's important to you, and why do you want to accomplish this? And it's like, okay, here, now let's get it done. So I like this quote, another one from Jim Rohn, first we form habits, then they form us. And it's so true. We looked at the circle of success. After you go through it a few times, those actions become habits. That's what we want. But we want positive, energy-giving, productivity habits that are going to allow us to do all the things that we love and that are great for us and our clients. Who's heard read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Fantastic book. There's a great story in there called The Big Rock Story. And lots of different versions I've heard over the years. Hands up if you have heard the story. Okay. Few. Yeah, okay. Oh, I would have thought more. Okay. Great story. Definitely read that book. That's another top one on the list. But he tells the story of this professor standing up in front of a class, and sometimes it's MBA students and sometimes it's undergrads. So he's standing up there, and these are smart students, very high-achieving class. He puts this big glass jar on the table. It's got a bunch of rocks in it. And he's like, is it full? And people are like, yeah, it's full. So he pulls out some pebbles, throws the pebbles in, moves it around. He's like, is it full? And they're a pretty smart group, so they're like, no. And so he pulls out some sand, pours it in between there, and he's like, is it full? And they're like, no. And there are two versions of the story. One is where he fills it with water, and there's another one where he pours a beer and fills it up with beer. But it's that was maybe the Phi Beta Kappa classroom. But so it gets to the top, and he's like, great. Now what's the moral of this story or this example? And in an MBA class, they're like, no matter how full your schedule is, you can always fit more in. And he says, no, it's not that. He's like, if you don't fit the big rocks in first, nothing else will fit. You'll never get them in. So it's important to go back to the mindset side and say, what are the big rocks in your life? What's most important to you? What do you want to accomplish? Once you set that, then there are some ways that you don't worry about the small stuff, because they'll fit in around, and if they don't quite have room, great, it's small stuff. Don't have to worry about it. But you're getting the big things in. So I always ask clients, what are the big rocks for you? Is it your health? Is it family? Is it education? Fitness? Finances? It could be anything. What's important for you is going to be different for you. This is going to be different for me. There's no right or wrong. But you need to figure out what the big rocks are in your life. When you're working with clients, figure out what it is in their life, because that will tell you what's important to them, and then you can help them realize the potential of that. So I like that. Schedule the big rocks instead of sorting gravel. In the habits side, on our routine, what we have is, we call it a fresh start morning method. And it's basically just, who has a morning routine when they get up? Okay, everyone's hand should be up, because everyone has a morning routine, otherwise you'd still be in bed. Some morning routines are more conducive to functioning and productivity than others, but the idea is that you're setting aside time every morning for you, your personal development, your growth. We have 7 different steps of it, and we don't have time to go into all the details of it here, but it involves reviewing your goals, a little bit of continuing education. Maybe it's reading 5 pages of a personal development book. We have a little bit of movement and mobility. We have some silence. How many times throughout the day and the week are you just absolutely silent and quiet? Now, who meditates? A few people meditate, yeah. So I love the idea of relaxation and breathing. The whole meditation thing I haven't quite got yet, but I think it's different parts of the same spectrum and where you're focusing on, because the silence, geez, I get up in the morning before the kids are up, and even if it's a bit of a hectic day and I've only got 10 minutes to do it, it's so much better. A little bit of mobility, a couple minutes of silence, some reading, review my goals, and take on the day. You feel so much more energy, you feel so much more productive, and it's amazing the difference. I can tell the days now when I don't do that, everything just starts to go off the rails and I have to refocus. And sometimes I've done my morning routine mid-morning, I'm like, all right, I gotta stop everything and just like refocus again, because it makes such a difference. Throughout the day, focus and energy accelerator moments. These are just like the things that we did, the head and neck mobility, shoulder mobility. Those are little energy breaks that you can just give yourself a boost, improve blood flow, improve your productivity. 30 seconds can give you up to 30 minutes of extra boost in productivity. How's that good for a return on investment? The focus ones are understanding your work environment and understanding what you need to get things done. How many people work in an open cubicle office environment? Do you sometimes find it challenging to focus? Yeah. My wife works in a software field, and she is surrounded by coders, and they're often headphones in, and they need to do more of the mobility breaks, because they will sit in front of a computer screen for 12 hours. But they know that if they have too many things going on, they can't focus on the code. So they put headphones in, and they might have whatever music is motivating for them to do, and that's what they need to do. But there are different things you can do throughout the day. Maybe it's listening to a favorite song of yours. How many people have been like nervous before going into a meeting or something? Listen to your favorite song before you go in to do that. It's going to boost you up, give you a motivational energy boost. So little things like that, we break down a whole bunch of them that you can do. And then evening wrap-up rituals. So this is, we say a productive day starts the night before, because what you do before bed, how many people love getting up early in the morning and just bound out of bed? Yeah, full of energy. Wake up before your alarm. Everyone's like, oh. If you went to bed early, you probably would over multiple times. I say this because I bartended back in university days. I would be up till 3, 4 in the morning. I have no problem. I'm a night owl. I could stay up all night. But the problem is, society doesn't function for night owls unless you're a shift worker. My kids, I could stay up till 5 in the morning. My kids are going to be up at 7 no matter what. And they're bounding in, Daddy, Daddy, wait. I'm like, So if I don't have my evening routine set up properly, my next day is a write-off. I can have all the productivity things I want in place, but if you're exhausted and run down, it's not going to happen. So things like planning your top 3 for the day, winding down in the evening, getting to bed on time, making sure you understand your metabolic type for nutrition so you can get the right food in you so you sleep better. From the movement side, move well first, then move often. I love this because it's so true of society today. Humans were meant to move, and yet we sit most of the day. There's a reason I've had you up and moving a couple times, because the human body was physically meant to move. We're used to be up and moving, and nap time was great after you've been like running across the tundra chasing antelope or something. But we've always had to do manual physical labor, and it's only been the last, say, 60 years or so that we've been seated, and it's wreaking havoc on our bodies. It's wreaking havoc on our lifestyle, our metabolism, our health overall. So doing these 4 pillars each day, we can change it so we have a boost in energy. I like this little slide. It's like the TV. A little delayed reaction there. People are like, oh yeah, that's the years, and yeah, okay. So 1990, big TVs, many people, yeah. Movement comes down to, and another reason that I called my book The Fitness Curveball is because people are so fixated on fitness and performance, but they forget about all the other stuff in the movement spectrum. Movement is what we did here. Just taking, the definition I use is taking every joint in your body through its full range of motion as many times a day as you can, at least a few. And so you get up in the morning, we have to do like a mobility minute where we get people to take all the joints in their body, do some squats and rotation stuff. And then activity is just your activities of daily living. Like you had to walk into here, and you had to get up and walk to lunch and things like that. They've done studies from 1950 to this millennium where people in 1950 burned about 500 extra calories per day than people in 2000 was when the study I read was done. But in 1950, people weren't going to spin classes and cardio kickboxing and doing CrossFit and things like that. But they were burning more calories per day because they were just more physically active. There was more manual labor. They had to walk places. Exercise is doing activities of daily living at just a little bit higher intensity. So if you're walking to work, walk faster. Get your heart rate up a little bit. That's exercise. Maybe it's brisk gardening or playing when you're with your kids in the backyard and running around and doing some heavy manual labor, like gardening and throwing bags of soil and fertilizer and stuff around. Fitness is more what people traditionally think of, but I define fitness as exercise done with a specific purpose. So if you're going, you could go out for just a jog, casual jog along the river pathway and be like, yeah, I'm just out for doing some exercise. Or you could be like, hey, I'm going out for 45 minutes. I'm going to keep my heart rate at 162 beats per minute, and I'm working on my, lactate or anaerobic threshold. And great, that's fitness. Performance would be like, hey, if I'm in a race and I'm competing against other people and I've added that extra layer of competition to it, great. The interesting thing is 80% of the health benefits come from movement, activity, and exercise. Fitness and performance they're optional. You don't have to do them. The people that are coming to a personal trainer or going to the gym to get fit and lose weight, they're trying to get fit and perform better, but they're not doing the movement, activity, and exercise daily and multiple times per week that they need to be doing. They don't need, like I tell people all the time, I own 2 gyms. I'm like, you don't need to ever go to the gym if you don't want to. It's nice to have some extra tools and resources if you want, but it's the coaching and the habits and the things that you get by seeking out a professional at the gym that are going to get you the most results. So I like this one, another great slide. We live in such an awesome world these days. Great slide here. Your health, your choice. So the interesting thing is, how many people have heard someone say, oh, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm too old. I can't do this. First of all, mindset. I've got some, I don't have them all in this slide, but I have a bunch of great pictures. There's a Joanna Quas, do a YouTube search for her. I think she's 94 now. She's the oldest actively still competing gymnast in the world. Phenomenal. She's this German, she used to be like on the German gymnastics team back in like the 1930s or something like that. And she still competes. She does parallel bars, she does floor, vault, all these things, and she's 94. It's fascinating to see her. And age is irrelevant. If you keep moving, you'll improve. When I was in university, we did a whole bunch of research on aging and fitness, and they did studies in long-term care facilities. People in their 70s, 80s, 90s that would just go on this like a basic strength training program. The whole 3 sets of 10, 12-week periodized, very, very basic, across the board, improvements in bone density, blood pressure decreases, coming down off medications, overall happiness, living longer, less incidence of falls, and it's across the board improvements in health. And these are people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. So it doesn't really matter when you start, it's just start. That's the key thing. So I won't go too much into this, but when we do, people come to us from the fitness side and we talk about the 7 primal movement patterns: push, pull, bend, lunge, squat, gait, and rotate. And they're all a component of everything we do in life. If we use throwing as example, so throwing is a lunge pattern with a rotate and an upper body push. And if I don't rotate well, it doesn't matter how strong my legs are or my arms are, I won't be able to throw very well. So people are always trying to go out and do these complex exercises, and they don't often realize that there are movement limitations in some of their primal patterns that we have to look at. And these things can be trained anywhere. You don't need to be in a gym. Do them in your living room. Do them in your office at work. And that's one of the things that we help people go to. It's another fun one. Back to that slide at the beginning I showed with the escalator going up and into the gym. And those people were probably going into the gym to go on the Stairmaster. All right, everyone hop up. All right, we won't do because it's a round table, we're not going to do this one. We're just going to do a little hip one. So lift one leg up in front. Touch your nose. Okay, everyone's sober. That's good. Bring the leg out and back down. So out, tap down, and back out. So just try and keep the one foot planted. Other hip goes in a circle. Other side. As I fall over. occupational hazard. Anyone in occupational health and safety? Good. All right. Shake the leg out to the side, bring it out front, swing it back. Okay. So you're just standing here like this and doing this. Who feels like blood flow to their hips and their glutes? Yeah. When you sit on your bum, no blood flow. All right, grab a seat again. We're not going to go too much into nutrition. Anyone here from the Nutrition and Healthy Lifestyles program? I love this quote. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. It's so true. What we eat becomes the cells of our body. People are always like, which diet do you subscribe by? I'm like, eat real food. Pretty straightforward. If your great-grandmother couldn't identify it as a food, don't eat it. It's pretty straightforward. Have things that are healthy for you, and your body will reward you. Often we go into detail on the portion sizes and how they've changed over the years, but it's pretty astronomical, especially if you go down to like Texas or something. You're like, whoa. So I love this quote as well. So many people spend their health gaining wealth and then have to spend their wealth to regain their health. It's very true, especially with the aging baby boomer market right now. A lot of people have been burning the candle at both ends for decades, and their body's coming to a screeching halt, and they're looking to healthcare professionals to help them live longer, live longer, but also live better. And so what we want to do is help people understand that there's more to it than fitness and nutrition. It's about setting all those things and finding the balance between. This is often a very powerful slide for our corporate audiences that we see. And it's a very shocking realization because we all know people on both sides of that. But we forget that those people are around the same age. So age is less relevant than what you're doing to live well at that age. And of course, you have to have a quote from The Rock. Sorry, Dwayne Johnson. Can't say The Rock anymore. Success at anything will always come down to focus and effort, and we control both. It comes back to that circle of success: mindset, beliefs, actions, outcomes. All right. How many people in here run their own business? How many are employees? How many are unemployed? Okay, just checking. What I always ask people at the end of every session is to think about what we talked about, find the one thing that resonated most with you. And you all have notebooks. I want you to open it up to a front page, or the first open blank page, and I want you to write down what that one thing was. I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. Okay? Very quickly, just jot it down. All right, so everyone's written it down. Now keep that page open. I see some people closing their books. Look at that thing and say, what's the one thing I can take action on today within, well, you've got another session after this, so by the time you get home tonight, or go to bed tonight, let's say, by the time you go to bed tonight, what's the one thing you can take action on towards that goal? Okay? It could be even setting a reminder for yourself to explore it further and set something up. But I want you to take one positive step towards that before you go to bed tonight. Anyone that's done goal setting realizes that setting the vision is great, but you have to chunk it down to what's the next actionable step I can do. And if we do those little actionable steps every single day, we're going to see tremendous progress. So I want you to think about this from the industry you're in. What can I do to help the clients I am, but also what can I do to help me? Because we can all improve. I'm still working through all these 4 pillars myself, and there's not an end to it. It's just we're continually improving. Now, survey is being done online after as a cumulative thing, or is it done after each? Okay. So usually when I do a talk, we have like survey sheets, so I just put that in there just to make sure. For those of you who are interested, my book's The Fitness Curveball. I have some copies at the back. You can go to thefitnesscurveball.com. You can order from there in the digital or the print version. But I'd love to take some questions. Who has questions? The physical copies are only through me right now, but it will be on Amazon soon, and I'm hoping in Chapters Indigo over the summer. Yeah, it just came out a few months ago, and I haven't got around to actually.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
If you're living with somebody with a very negative attitude, what would be the first step you would take?
The question was, if you're living with someone with a very negative attitude, what would be the first step you can take? I would say the first step you can take is to really protect and focus your positive attitude and look at we can pick and choose our friends and we can pick and choose our coworkers to some point, but it's harder to pick and choose family. And so if that's what we're talking about, we can't always change. I like to say to clients, people don't change until they're ready to change, but we don't want other people's stuff to impact our progress and our development.
I'm not asking questions why.
Okay.
Is some of it hereditary? Like, I mean, I'm talking about my daughter. She has a lot of negative attitudes.
Yeah.
It's not hereditary.
It's not hereditary. That's what I was just going to say. And read Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, and it's fascinating. Yeah, that's a circle of distress that a lot of people get into. I've seen it thousands of times over the years, and it can be reversed, but people have to want to ask themselves and deal with the answers to the tough questions of what's actually putting them in that negative mindset. And many times it goes beyond the scope of what I do. I can ask questions and refer out to people that can help in that environment, but a lot of times it's just asking questions and having people realize for themselves. That's what coaches and consultants do. Yeah, but yes, it's not hereditary by any means.
We sometimes use the phrase, what would it take for you to think about that differently? And it's a difficult question, and I think we've had that conversation when we've dealt with students in some of our programs, but it is a challenge sometimes to get someone to actually think about it differently, but it's not a yes or no answer that you can give. And when you actually use that, it's very difficult for them to answer unless they actually think through something. So I think some of the things that Tim has given us are some frameworks that actually give us reasons why people end up in that situation. I actually designed the Living Well programs for most of the city and the province, and it is really interesting to watch how others can support each other, and especially people who are in the senior population. They just need a place to practice those positive things that's really supportive. So I think a lot of the things that Tim actually has talked about today are the things that we can actually use with some of our populations of people that we see, and with our students who sometimes get really down on themselves about what they can and can't do and what they know and don't know. So it can be really useful that way. Yeah. Anyway, I'd like to just say a huge thank you to Tim for giving us such a great talk today, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.